Hey everybody, Ryan Chichak here. I wanted to shoot a quick video to just compare the difference between running SQL Warehouse on serverless versus SQL Warehouse on Pro. And it's really a significant difference. I say what the difference is, but I think seeing is believing. And let's get started. I want to show the two SQL warehouses that I have set up. Currently, I have two SQL warehouses. Neither of them are running. They're both in stop state. I have Chichak Serverless, which is serverless, and I have Chichak Pro, which is Pro. These are going to suffice as my warehouses in my SQL editor. I'm going to basically run my SQL queries. I have two SQL queries. I have a very complex SQL query that takes a while to run, and then I have a medium query that will take a couple seconds to run. The idea is I'm going to run these from the stop state of the SQL warehouses to just show just how fast serverless is compared to a pro warehouse that is not fast because you're going to have to wait and you will see what that means. I'm making sure that my catalog is set for both of these instances. All right. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I want to run serverless and then pro. And again, these warehouses are not running right now. So when I run this query, this is going to be from stop state, which is important because this is a typical use case if a user is picking a warehouse that is not running. And these are small warehouses, which is a good baseline to start out if you don't really know what the demand is going to be. If I run this and I want to actually get a stopwatch, let's see if I can get a stopwatch. Where it's going to be easy to track this. I'm going to pop this out of my window and I'm going to make this easy to track here. All right. Now I'm going to run this and then I'll click the stopwatch. Okay. I'm going to play. And you can see, boom. Okay, so that was less than 3 seconds that the warehouse is up and running. It's in a start state. Okay. And the query is now executing. As I said, this is a very complex query over billions of rows, and that took 17 seconds, start to finish, which is impressive considering if I try to do a query that is not nearly as complex on Pro, let's restart my stopwatch where you can see my warehouse, the serverless warehouse is running. Okay. It took less than 3 seconds. If I run in Pro now, again with a medium query and then click play, I want to show how long it takes to actually start a Pro warehouse up, where this is running on PaaS and not SaaS. And PaaS is going to run inside of the VP, your VPC, and it's going to make sure the EC2 instances are spun up. It's going to make sure the imagery is correct. It's going to make sure the configuration is correct. It's going to do a bunch of things, and that takes time. But really, what I see when I'm provisioning any solution, not just Databricks, is that the actual AWS infrastructure just to spin up the EC2 is going to take time. It's going to take minutes just to spin that up and have it running. Therefore, this process is going to take some time. As you can see right now, as I'm talking, we're in it about 50 seconds. Where again, this warehouse, the Pro, is going to run. And the interesting thing about cost, if you're trying to lower your TCO, is that when I clicked on play and the warehouse is starting up, that's when you start getting charged from a Databricks perspective and an AWS perspective. It's important to take both of those ideas into account, AWS and Databricks, because you have to summate the total spend of what the actual output product is of the TCO. Whereas inside of serverless, since serverless is a SaaS solution, as soon as you run the query and it spins up the warehouse in less than 3 seconds in my case, you're only spending you're spending less than 3 seconds just to start the warehouse up. Whereas right now we're almost in 2 minutes in to the pro warehouse where I'm spending AWS costs from an infrastructure, and then I'm also spending Databricks costs. So my TCO is higher right now because the time waiting is just, look at this. Over 2 minutes, I'm gonna likely go into 3 minutes where I'm just waiting for the warehouse to spin up, not even the query being executed, just the warehouse alone, where I'm just spending time waiting and waiting. So from a user perspective, an end user perspective, just waiting for this warehouse to spin up, it's not very fun because I'm wasting time just having to wait. Whereas that is completely removed with serverless because it takes a few seconds of your time of an end user's time. So the user experience is exponentially better, not to mention the TCO cost of just waiting is removed. And we're coming on to 3 minutes. And you can see again, my pro warehouse is spinning up. It's that infrastructure. That infrastructure takes time again to just spin up. It's in the start state, install the Docker containers and such, configurations, network configurations, all those things take time as we're all going through right now as I'm waiting. I'm going on to almost 3.5 minutes for the warehouse just to start up before the query can be executed. Whereas if I come back into my warehouse and run, boom, the same query I'm in less than a second because we're getting cache. Whereas again, if I go to my pro, I'm still waiting for the warehouse to spin up. So if I have a bunch of users, those users are all going to be waiting for pro to even start up in the first place. And then if we talk about auto scaling, to add more infrastructure, which is transparent in the background, but for those new nodes to spin up, it's still going to take time. We're coming on to 4 minutes now, and we're still waiting on the warehouse. Remember, Pro and serverless, we have the same t-shirt size for the warehouse, small, and it took less than 3 seconds in serverless, and we're going past 4 minutes inside of Pro. And this again, I'm paying Databricks and AWS to wait for the infrastructure to spin up. And it's not fun to wait. It's like watching paint dry. Thankfully, it's not silent or, okay, so it took 4.5 minutes, 4.5 minutes for the warehouse to finally start up. And now the query is running. All right, we're waiting for the query to return. Just think of all the queries that could be run on serverless while we waited 4.5 minutes for Pro to start. Boom. Okay, so now we're done with that query. If we take this same query and run it in the serverless warehouse, that query it didn't actually take, you can see the scheduling took a bulk of the time, and then the query actually took, you can see 10 seconds to optimize, 16 seconds to run. And then if we look here, it took 5 seconds. It took less than a second to optimize, and then it took 5 seconds to run. Where the performance, the user experience is just so much better in serverless. And if you just go back to my warehouse, you can see these are both running. But again, if I stop serverless, you can see that stopped. If I want to start it back up and click on start, it literally takes less than 3 seconds in my place. Where if I stop this pro and start it back up, this is where we're going to be waiting 4.5 minutes. And it's just Why am I going to do this with Pro if serverless is just so far superior from a user endpoint perspective? That's all I got. Thank you so much for sitting and watching paint dry with me, watching Pro start up, but also comparing it to the blazing fast speed of serverless. Have a great weekend, everybody.